My name is Evelyn Moore. I'm 45 years old, and for nearly 20 of those years, I believed I was someone's mother. Not biologically, but in every way that ever mattered. I met Daniel Moore when his daughter Lily was 6 years old. Skinny knees, missing teeth, and eyes that searched every room like she was afraid people disappeared if she blinked too long. Her biological mother, Rachel, had left before Lily could spell her own name. No calls, no birthdays, no apologies, just absence. And I stepped into that silence. I tied shoelaces. I packed lunches shaped like animals. I sat on cold bathroom floors during fevers and whispered, "I'm here, sweetheart. I've got you." Lily called me Eve, never Mom, not at first. Later sometimes, only when she was scared. I never corrected her. I never demanded a title. Love didn't need one. So when Daniel told me Lily was getting engaged, I cried, quietly, in the car. Because that's what mothers do when they realize time has moved without asking permission. The engagement party was Lily's idea. Big, elegant, expensive. I helped plan it. Of course I did. I assumed I'd be sitting beside her. I assumed wrong. My name card was at a table near the exit, between strangers. A detail easy to overlook, until it wasn't. I told myself it was a mistake. Then Lily stood up to give her speech. She lifted her glass, smiling, radiant, glowing in a way only brides-to-be ever do. "I just want to thank everyone who's always been there for me," she said, "and especially my real mother, Rachel, for coming tonight." Applause erupted. I didn't clap. Rachel stood up like she belonged there, like she hadn't missed 20 years of scraped knees and broken hearts. Lily hugged her, and just like that, I vanished. Later, when I asked for a photo, Lily smiled politely. "I want one with my real family," she said. People laughed. Daniel said nothing. I left early. I didn't know then that this was only the beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I drove for hours with the radio off, the city lights blurring past like they didn't want to see me either. Every red light felt like an accusation. Every green one felt like permission to keep running. By the time I pulled into our driveway, the house was dark. Daniel was already inside. Of course he was. He always slept easily after avoiding conflict. I stood in the doorway of our bedroom, my coat still on, keys clenched in my fist. He was lying on the bed, scrolling through his phone like the world hadn't cracked open a few hours earlier. "You didn't say anything," I said. He glanced up. "About what?" That was the moment. The exact moment something in me started to break cleanly instead of shattering. "About Lily," I said. "About what she did. About what she said." Daniel sighed, slow and heavy, like I'd asked him to solve a problem he didn't care enough to understand. "Evelyn, don't do this tonight." I laughed once. It came out sharp and ugly. "Don't do what? Acknowledge that your daughter humiliated me in front of 200 people?" "She didn't humiliate you," he said, rubbing his face. "She just wanted her moment." Her moment. I walked further into the room. She called Rachel her real mother. Daniel looked away. That tiny movement told me everything. "She's been through a lot," he said quietly. "You know how complicated her feelings are about Rachel." "Complicated?" My voice shook. "That woman abandoned her. I stayed." "I know," he said. "And Lily knows that too." "No," I said. "She doesn't, and tonight proved it." Daniel sat up, irritation creeping into his expression. "You're taking this too personally." That was the second crack. "Too personally?" I repeated. "I raised her, Daniel. I paid for her lessons. I stayed up with her when she cried over boys who didn't deserve her. I helped her move into her first apartment while Rachel was nowhere to be found. How is that not personal?" He stood now, arms crossed, defensive, familiar. "She didn't mean it the way you're taking it." "Then how did she mean it?" I asked. Silence. That silence felt heavier than the laughter at the party. "Finally," he said, "she's an adult. She gets to choose who she honors." I stared at him, really stared, and realized something terrifying. He had already chosen too. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text. From Lily. "Hope you got home safe. Sorry if tonight upset you, but it was important for me to acknowledge my real mom. Hope you understand." Hope you understand. I didn't reply. The next day, messages poured in from extended family. Some sympathetic, others dismissive. "She didn't mean it. Don't make it about you. Let it go, Evelyn. Let it go." By evening, Daniel was acting like nothing had happened. He asked what I wanted for dinner, opened the fridge, whistled softly. Something inside me snapped, not loudly, not dramatically, but cleanly. "I'm not hungry," I said. He shut the fridge harder than necessary. "Are you still on this?" "Still?" I asked. "This isn't over. This changed something." "Not everything is about you," he muttered. I stood. "You're right. It's about Lily making it clear I don't belong, and you letting her." He opened his mouth to argue. I didn't stay to hear it. I grabbed my jacket and walked out. That night, I checked into a motel across town. Not because I had nowhere else to go, but because I needed to sit alone with the truth. I wasn't part of that family. Not really. And I never had been. The motel smelled like bleach and burnt coffee. The mattress sagged in the middle like it had given up on supporting anyone a long time ago. Fitting. I lay on my back, staring at the ceiling, replaying the last 20 years like scenes from a movie I suddenly realized I'd misunderstood. Every Christmas morning, where Lily ran past me to Daniel first. Every school form that listed me as emergency contact instead of parent. Every time Rachel's name floated back into conversations like a ghost that never quite left. I'd told myself love was enough. By morning, my chest felt hollowed out. I packed my bag, checked out, and drove without direction until exhaustion forced me to stop at a small Airbnb on the edge of town. It wasn't much, just a studio with thin walls and mismatched furniture, but it was quiet. For the first time in years, no one needed anything from me. I turned my phone back on around noon. Missed calls, texts, voicemails. Daniel, Lily, Daniel again. I didn't listen to them. Instead, I sat on the floor with my back against the couch and tried to breathe. The call came that evening from a number I hadn't seen in years. Evelyn? A familiar male voice said. My throat tightened. Lucas? Lucas Carter, Rachel's younger brother. The family's black sheep. The only one who never pretended Rachel was anything other than what she was. I heard what happened, he said. Daniel called my sister. She told me. Of course she did. I'm fine, I lied. There was a pause, then gently. No, you're not. That did it. I pressed my fingers to my eyes. Why are you calling? Because someone should have done it a long time ago, he said. You deserve better. The words hit harder than I expected. I hadn't realized how badly I needed to hear them until they were said out loud. I don't know what I'm doing, I admitted. I gave them everything, and I don't know where that leaves me. You didn't waste your life, Lucas said. You invested it in people who didn't value the return. That's on them, not you. There was a knock at my door less than 2 hours later. I opened it to find Lucas standing there with a takeout bag and a six-pack. You look like you might forget to eat, he said. I stepped aside without arguing. We sat on opposite ends of the tiny table, cartons spread between us. They never really saw you as family, he said quietly after a while. You were the safe option, the dependable one, the placeholder until Rachel decided to show up again. The word stung because it fit too well. I kept thinking one day Lily would see it, I said, that she'd realize who actually stayed. Lucas shook his head. She might, but that doesn't mean you have to keep bleeding until she does. That night something shifted. Not healed, but clarified. The next week I started looking for apartments. And just when I began to feel steady again, the past came knocking. The first call came on a Wednesday afternoon. I was sitting in a coffee shop, laptop open, scrolling through apartment listings. Sunlight spilled across the table in a way that felt almost unfair, like the world was moving on without waiting for my permission. My phone buzzed. Daniel. I flipped it face down and took another sip of my coffee. It buzzed again, then again. By the fourth time, I felt it in my chest. That old reflex, the one that told me to pick up, to fix things, to be the steady one. I didn't. A few minutes later, an unknown number flashed across the screen. I hesitated, then answered. Evelyn? Daniel's voice was different this time. Strained, rushed. What is it? I asked flatly. You need to talk to Lily, he said. Please. I closed my eyes. I don't need to do anything. Something happened, he said quickly. She needs you. That word again. Needs. What happened? I asked, against my better judgment. There was a pause, long enough to tell me this was big. The engagement's off, Daniel said. Ethan cheated. He left. Lily's a mess. I waited for the wave of sympathy. It didn't come. She keeps calling Rachel, he continued. Rachel won't answer. She blocked her. Lily's falling apart, Evelyn. She needs her mom. I almost laughed. Her real mom? I asked. Daniel inhaled sharply. Evelyn, don't do this. No, I said. I'm not doing anything. This is just the consequence of what she chose. Please, he said. Just talk to her. She's devastated. I thought of Lily's smile at the engagement party. The way she'd looked past me like I was furniture. The laughter. I'm not her backup plan, I said. I never should have been. And then I hung up. My hands were shaking when I blocked his number. Then Lily's. Then Rachel's, just to be thorough. I expected guilt. What I felt instead was relief. That night, Lucas texted me. Proud of you. I stared at the message longer than I needed to. For the first time in years, my silence wasn't a weakness. It was a boundary. I thought blocking them would bring peace. It didn't. It brought noise. Emails started arriving first. long, frantic paragraphs from Lily with subject lines like, "Please, I'm sorry, I need you." Each one was more desperate than the last. "I know I hurt you. I didn't mean it like that. You'll always be my mom." I stared at the word mom until it blurred. Where was that certainty when she stood in front of everyone and erased me? I didn't reply. A few days later, the texts began, from random numbers, borrowed phones, even an old group chat I'd forgotten existed. Then Daniel escalated. Voicemails, his voice swinging between anger and accusation. "You're being selfish. She's your daughter whether you like it or not. You're embarrassing us." The final message came late one night. "I hope she never forgives you." That was when it clicked. He wasn't angry because Lily was hurt. He was angry because I'd stopped absorbing the damage for them. The next morning, Lucas called me, laughter bubbling in his voice. "You're not going to believe this," he said. "What now?" I asked, bracing myself. "Rachel blocked Lily, completely, after the engagement party. One night of pretending to be Mother of the Year, then she vanished again." I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. "So Lily threw me away," I said slowly, "for someone who couldn't even pretend to care for more than an evening." "Yep," I laughed, not bitterly, not sadly. "Just free." A month passed. I moved into a small apartment with big windows and no ghosts. I reconnected with friends I'd neglected. I signed up for a motorcycle safety course on a whim, something I'd always postponed because it felt irresponsible. One afternoon, Lucas sent me a link. A local news article. Wedding venue sues bride for breach of contract. Lily's name was right there in black and white. Ethan had moved on fast, faster than anyone expected. The deposits were gone. The dream venue lost. The fairy tale shattered. I felt a flicker of pity. It passed. That evening, I met Lucas for a drink. We sat at a quiet bar, talking about nothing and everything. "I filed for divorce," he said casually, taking a sip. I blinked. "What?" "Watching you walk away," he said, "made me realize how long I've been settling." I smiled softly. "To new beginnings." He clinked his glass against mine. "To new beginnings." The apartment still didn't feel like home, but it felt like mine. Morning light poured through the windows without asking permission. No one's shoes by the door except my own. No tension hanging in the air, waiting for me to smooth it out. Silence, not the suffocating kind, but the peaceful kind that lets you hear your own thoughts again. I started small. Coffee on the balcony instead of rushing breakfast for someone else. Long walks without checking my phone. A motorcycle helmet hanging by the door like a promise I'd finally kept to myself. Daniel tried once more. An email this time. Long, emotional, carefully written. "Lily's in therapy. She's starting to understand what she did. She asks about you every day." I read it twice. Then I archived it. Not because I didn't care, but because caring no longer meant sacrificing myself. Lucas noticed the change in me before I fully did. "You look lighter," he said one evening as we sat on my couch, pizza boxes between us. "I am," I replied. "I just didn't realize how heavy I'd been." There was no grand declaration between us. No dramatic confession, just an easy understanding, built on years of truth and quiet respect. Whatever this was, it didn't need labels yet. One afternoon, I ran into Lily at a grocery store. She froze when she saw me. "Evelyn," she said, voice trembling. I looked at her, really looked, and saw someone younger than I remembered, smaller, cracked in places I couldn't fix anymore. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I made a mistake." I nodded. "I know." She waited. For more, for forgiveness, for rescue. I gave her neither. "I hope you find what you're looking for," I said gently, and then I walked away. It didn't feel cruel. It felt complete. That night, as I sat on my balcony, watching the city lights flicker on, I finally understood something that took me 20 years to learn. Love isn't proven by how much you endure. Family isn't defined by who needs you most. And sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself, without apology. For the first time in a long time, my life didn't belong to anyone else. It belonged to me.